בסכו מיום ליום ישועתו. שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, בסכו מיום ליום ישועתו. ספרו בגויים כבודו, לכל העמים נפלאותיו, כי גדול אדוני ומהולל מאוד, נורא הוא על כל אלוהים. שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, בסכו מיום ליום ישועתו. ספרו בגויים כבודו, לכל העמים נפלאותיו, כי גדול אדוני ומהולל מאוד, נורא הוא על כל אלוהים. שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, בסכו מיום ליום ישועתו. ספרו בגויים כבודו, לכל העמים נפלאותיו, כי גדול אדוני ומהולל מאוד, נורא הוא על כל אלוהים. שירו לאדוני, שירו לאדוני, שירו לאדוני. ספרו בגויים כבודו, לכל העמים נפלאותיו, כי גדול אדוני ומהולל מאוד, נורא הוא על כל אלוהים. שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, בסכו מיום ליום ישועתו. שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, בסכו מיום ליום ישועתו. שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ, שירו לאדוני ברכו שמו, בסכו מיום ליום ישועתו. ספרו בגויים כבודו, לכל העמים נפלאותיו, כי גדול אדוני ומהולל מאוד,
משכנותיך ישראל, מה טובו, מה טובו. אוהליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל, ואני ברוב חסדך אבוא אליך, אשתחווה לכל קודשך ביראתך. מה טובו, מה טובו. אוהליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל, מה טובו, מה טובו. אוהליך יעקב, משכנותיך ישראל.
We begin our service on page 66 with an inspiration for prayer. Each of us enters this sanctuary with a different need. Some hearts are full of peace and gratitude, overflowing with love and joy. They are eager to confront the day to make the world a better place. They are recovering from illness or have escaped misfortune. We rejoice with them. Some hearts ache with sorrow. Disappointments weigh heavily on them. Families have been broken, loved ones lie in a bed of pain. Death has taken a cherished loved one. May our presence and caring bring them comfort. Some hearts are embittered, ideals are betrayed and mocked, answers sought in vain. Life has lost its meaning and value. May the knowledge that we too are searching restore our hope and renew our faith. Whatever it is that brings you to our sanctuary this morning or with us on live stream, we are glad you are here to celebrate Shabbat with us. And so we begin on page 76 in our Sidurim, starting by praising God for the gift of our bodies, and then we join in and singing Elohai Neshama, praising God for the gift of our souls. So on 76, join me in the English. Praise to you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe, who formed the human body with skill, creating the body's many pathways and openings. It is well known before your throne of glory that if one of them be wrongly opened or closed, it would be impossible to endure and stand before you. Blessed are you, Adonai, who heals all flesh, working wondrously. Baruch atah Adonai rofei chol basar umafli la'asot.
Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Shenatata bi Tehorahi. Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Shenatata bi Tehorahi. Ata berata, ata yitzarta, ata nefachta bi, ve'ata mishamra bekirbi. Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Shenatata bi Tehorahi.
Elu Divarim She'ein Lahem Shi'or. On page 88, we read together a Talmudic teaching that reminds us of our obligation to each other as individuals and as a community as a whole. Join with me. These are things that are limitless, of which a person enjoys the fruit of the world, while the principle remains in the world to come. They are honoring one's father and mother, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for the wedding couple, accompanying the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer, and making peace among people. But the study of Torah encompasses them all. On page 106, we rise for Chatzi Kaddish as we remain standing through the Shema.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, אמן. בעלמא דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל. בגלה, בגלה, ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה, יתברך, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה ברכו, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה. תושבחתה ונחמתה, דהמירן בעלמא, ואמרו אמן. ברכו את אדוני המבורך, ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד.
On page 110, we continue with Yotzer, or praising God for the gift of creation. Baruch ata Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Yotzer or uvarei choshech, osei shalom, uvarei atakol, hameir la'aretz v'ladarim aleha berachamim, uvtuvo mechadesh bechol yom tamid ma'aseh bereshit. Ma rabu ma'asecha Adonai, kulam b'chochma asita, mal'ah ha'aretz kinyanecha, titbarach Adonai Eloheinu, al shevach ma'aseh yadecha, ve'al me'orei or she'asita yifa'arucha sela, or chadash al tzion ta'ir, v'nizkeh chulanu mehera le'oro, baruch ata Adonai, yotzer ha'me'orot. We continue on page 112, actually 113. Sorry. On the bottom, read with me. Love your neighbor as yourself, you said. In light blinded we saw that inner and outer worlds are one as you are one. You spoke and we wrote. We reached for you down the centuries, your light moving before us as we climbed, fell back, and climbed again, your Sinai of life. Baruch ata Adonai, habocher be'amo Yisrael ba'ahava.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto, Leolam Vaed.
You may be seated. We continue chanting on page 116. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך hayom alevavecha, vishinanta levanecha, v'dibarta b'ham, v'shivtecha b'veitecha, u'v'lechtecha v'derech, u'shokbecha uv'kumecha, u'kshartam le'ot ayadecha, v'hayu letotafot bin einecha, u'ktavtam amezuzot beitecha, u'visha'arecha, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם. אמת. On the bottom of page 121, we read responsively. The eternal truth is that you alone are God, and there is none else. May the righteous of all nations rejoice in your love and exult in your justice. Let them beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Let nation not lift up sword against nation, nor learn war anymore. You shall not hate your brother or your sister in your heart. The stranger that sojourns with you shall be accepted as your equal, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. Why do you crush my people and oppress the poor? Asked God. We know that the Eternal One defends the poor and upholds the rights of the needy. Praise to God Most High. Blessed is God and deserving of blessing.
Adonai, mi chamocha, nedar b'kodesh, nora tehilot, o sefele, shira chadasha, shibchu gehulim, לשמחה שפת הים, יחד כולם, הודו והמליכו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. צור ישראל, Kuma bi'ezrat Yisrael, ufedei chinumecha, Yehuda ve'Yisrael. Go aleinu, Adonai tzevaot shemo, Kedosh Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael.
We rise for the Amidah on page 124.
Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham וחנה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו ואהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם עזרת שרה, אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומידו מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל.
נקדש את שמך בעולם, כי שם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ, כבודו. אדיר אדירנו אדוני, אדוננו מאדיר שירך בכל הארץ. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מלכנו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו, ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהיך ציון, לדור ודור, הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גדלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, ושכחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
You may be seated. We continue on page 132, singing Yismechu as we rejoice in these hours that Shabbat gives us of rest.
Yismechu v'malchutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malchutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat. Mekadeshe Shvi Shabbat, Kulam Yisvehu v'yitangu metuvecha Shabbat. Yismechu v'malchutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malchutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat. Uvashvi ratzita bo v'kidashto Shabbat. Chemdat yamim, oto karata Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat. Zecher l'maaseh serit Shabbat. Zecher l'maaseh v'reshit Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malachutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, v'korei oneg Shabbat.
We turn to page 134. I'm going to share a reading with you that fits in with this text, this Kiddushat Hayom, celebrating the holiness of the day, and then we will join together with that Chatimah, that last line in Hebrew. The meaning of Shabbat is to celebrate time rather than space. 6 days a week, we live under the tyranny of things of space. On Shabbat, we try to become attuned to holiness in time. It is a day on which we are called upon to share in what is eternal in time, to turn from the results of creation to the mystery of creation, from the world of creation to the creation of the world. Together, Baruch Atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. On page 137, we read responsively. On this holy Shabbat, may we draw nearer to life, to peace, and to joy. May we find true rest, holiness in our deeds, worth in our study of Torah. Let us feed on the love of goodness. Let us drink from the love of goodness. Restrain our thirst for excess and cleanse our hearts to serve life well. On this holy Shabbat, may we draw nearer in life, in peace, and in joy. Baruch Atah Adonai, she'otcha levadcha be'ira na'avod. We acknowledge with thanks that you are Adonai, our God, and the God of our ancestors forever. You are the rock of our lives and the shield of our salvation in every generation. Let us thank you and praise you for our lives which are in your hand, for our souls which are in your care, for your miracles that we experience every day, and for your wondrous deeds and favors at every time of day, evening, morning, and noon. O good one whose mercies never end, O compassionate one whose kindness never fails, we forever put our hope in you. For all these things, O sovereign, let your name be forever praised and blessed. O God, our Redeemer and Helper, let all who live affirm you and praise your name in truth. Blessed are you, Adonai, your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. Baruch Atah Adonai, Hatov Shimcha Lecha Na'eh Lehodot.
Sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, tova uveracha. Sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, tova uveracha. Ya la 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 la, ya la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la, ya la 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 la, ya la la, ya la la, ya la la la. Sim, 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 shalom, sim, shalom, sim, shalom, tova uveracha.
We take a few moments now for our own silent prayers.
Yehu liratzon imrefi vegyon libi lefanecha. Yehu liratzon imrefi vegyon libi lefanecha. Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri vegoali. Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri, Adonai tzuri vegoali.
Seder Kriyat Torah, service for the reading of Torah, page 200 and, what is it? 45. Thank you, I have a weird prayer book here. 245. Assemble the people, men, women, and children, and the strangers in your cities, to hear, to learn, to revere Adonai your God, to observe faithfully the words of this Torah. And let your children who do not yet know it hear, that they too may learn to revere Adonai your God. We rise in honor of the Torah.
Ein kamocha ve'Elohim Adonai, ve'ein k'ma'asecha, malechutecha malechut kol olamim, u'memshaltecha b'chol dor v'dor. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai imloch leolam va'ed, Adonai os le'amo yitain, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom.
On page 247, we read responsively. In this scroll is the secret of our people's life from Sinai until now.
Teaching is love and justice, goodness and hope. Freedom is its gift to all who treasure. Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah. Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah. Le'amo Yisrael mikdushato. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonai shemo, gadlu l'Adonai iti, uneromama shemo yachdav, lecha Adonai hagedula, v'hagevura, v'hatiferet, v'hanetzach, v'hahod, ki chol v'shamayim uvaretz, ki chol v'shamayim uvaretz, lecha Adonai hamamlacha, ve'hamid na'aseh lechol erosh. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, ha'olam omed. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, ha'olam omed.
You may be seated. This week's Torah portion is Lech Lecha. We're starting in chapter 12 of Genesis, the third Torah portion in all of the Torah portions. You may remember just a few weeks ago, we celebrated Simchat Torah, and we started our cycle of Torah again. So this morning, we're going to focus on the opening verses of this Torah portion to think about what it means to leave home and go to a place you've never heard of or seen before, and what it is about Avram's journey that is so transformational for him, and then by extension, hopefully for all of us as well. Okay, so Rabbi Jurgen, they're not separating for you, I'm so sorry. Do you have one? Oh, you do, okay, great. Fantastic. I'm going to let you, Vaughn, tell people to read. We're going to start with the the English of Genesis to give us some context.
You got to do the Hebrew. No.
Okay. The Lord said to Abram, "Go forth from your native land and from your father's house to the land that I will show you. I will make of you a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and curse him that curses you. And all the families of the earth shall bless themselves by you." Abram went forth as the Lord had commanded him, and Lot went with him. Abram was 75 years old when he left Haran.
Thank you. So we're going to start with that opening famous, it's not the first words, but that famous phrase, Lech Lecha. What does it mean? Go forth from your land. I'm sorry for the weird formatting. Rashi gives us sort of the classic response.
Lech lecha, go forth, for your own benefit and your own good. For there I will make of you a great nation, while here you will not become what you can.
Right, if you stay home, if you stay put, not that you won't have a nice life, but you will not reach your potential, not only for what you need to be, but what we, the world, right, because he's our first Jew, right, what we need you to be. All right, the Jewish Publication Society, Lech Lecha, gives us sort of more of a grammarian's perspective of what this phrase means.
Lech lecha, the prepositionally gives the verb halach, to walk and go, additional force of spreading from or taking leave of.
So so the Hebrew verb lalechet means to walk or to go. Side note, the word halacha, right, which we know to mean Jewish law, comes from the same verb. So especially as Reformed Jews, we take it not as the path that you must go on and never diverge from, but the journey one takes through Jewish law and rituals. Same verb, right? But JPS is saying with that lamed, that preposition, it's saying, don't just meander, but the time is now to go forward. And then an excerpt from the Zohar's interpretation.
Leha, go to yourself to know yourself, to fulfill your destiny.
Right, so the second word, lecha, also means to you, right, or belonging to you. So from a mystical perspective, this is not just a physical journey, this is a spiritual journey, a growing thing for Avram to do in order to realize his true potential. Okay, and so God promises him, if you're going to go, I'll make of you a great nation and bless you and make your name great. What does it mean that I will bless you and make your name great? The Adzakinim gives us one interpretation.
I will make of you a great nation and bless you and make your name great. Read not, and you shall be a blessing, rather be a blessing. This is the command form. Thus, as part of Avram's covenantal promise, he was commanded, wherever you go, inspire others to bless you, then shall you be a blessing.
So the difference Buber teaches us between Adam and Noah, or Adam and Noah versus Abraham, is that in the earlier covenantal relationships, God just gives them something, right? And then doesn't ask for anything in return. The difference here is that God says, you're going to go, I'm going to bless you, but then you also need to be a blessing. I'm giving you the power, or reminding you that you have the potential to be blessing and share blessing in the world. As we hear in verse 3, and all the families of the earth shall bless themselves by or through you. Midrash Rabbah.
Midrash Rabbah, living at home in Haran, his father's house, Abram was like a fragrant flask of perfume with the lid tightly closed. Only by leaving home, opening himself up to the world out there, could his unique fragrance be shared and bring sweetness to others.
I know, it's such a weird metaphor, but and we actually see a very similar metaphor when the Midrash compares Noah to Abraham in even stranger terms. But you get the idea, right? Like a fragrance isn't something that, it is physical, but it's ephemeral, but it's something that spreads, right? And when you get close up to it, you can truly sense its power and its beauty, hopefully, right? Hopefully that fragrance is one that is compelling to you. But just this very physical idea that when Avram was home, it's not that he wasn't living a good and purposeful life, but his potential was contained, right? And when he leaves, when he goes forth, the cork is popped, right? And that beauty, that potential, that spiritual connection that he has with God and then will share with others is fully unleashed. Okay, and so Peter Pitzela, a modern midrashist, he gives us, from back in the 80s and 90s, he gives us an understanding about how Avram's call can be our call as well. Samantha.
Abram's call, both the one he hears and the one he leaves us, contains a promise. It is God's promise to fill and empower us with energy and vision, but more, it is also his promise and our promise to one another that our soul's journeys will be connected to the well-being of the whole earth. Something beyond this world calls this man to transform this world into the family of man. Hearing the call which echoes through the ages, through the parchment letters and words, we trace our roots back to Abram. Each generation must be recalled to the journey. Each soul must leave the motherland and the Father's house to re-experience a wandering. For each one's call is also a recollection. The dream outlives the dreamers. It asks to be remembered in every generation. But every generation must dream it. It must hear it anew, for the call lies beyond us all.
So I love this commentary because it constantly jumps back and forth between the universal promise and our own personal responsibility to hear the call, take the chance, make the journey. What that chance and that journey are means something completely different for every single one of us. And I love this idea that there is that call that echoes through time, through the millennia, and yet what you hear, what I hear, what I choose to hear, or what you choose to hear, is going to be uniquely different for all of us, even as it's all connected back to Avram's call, right? And so when we hear the words Lech Lecha in this parsha, it's not just about Avram leaving, actually not his first home, but his second home, and starting the journey to Canaan, which we need him to take in order for us to be here today, but it's a reminder that we should listen to those voices that compel us to take chances, to take risks, to search after the things that complete us and fulfill us, because then we don't only receive blessing, but we share that blessing with others. It's such a great teaching. It's one I love to come back to year after year. It never, at least for me, seeks to inspire and uplift and remind me that even though it can be scary to take those chances and go out there, it's what we have to do to grow as human beings and to grow in our holiness and our capacity to share that holiness with others. So now Rabbi Jurgen is going to chant these verses, and we're going to share in the blessing for before and after, and you can turn to page 245. Nope, 255? 250. 250. You know, numbers are really not my thing. If you know me, you know that's true. Yes, look, 250, it's right there. And we're going to share in the opening blessing, and then you can follow along with the Hebrew if you would like on your study sheets. Ready? Baruch hu et Adonai hamvarach, Baruch Adonai hamvarach le'olam va'ed, Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech olam, Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato, Baruch ata Adonai notin haTorah.
Amen. Vayomer Adonai el Avraham, lech lecha ma'artzecha u'memoladecha u'mibeit avicha el ha'aretz asher arecha. Ve'esecha legoy gadol va'avarecha v'agadlaha shemecha v'haya bracha. Va'avracha mivaharchecha umekalelcha aor v'nivrechu v'cha kol mishpachot ha'adama vayelech Avraham kasher diber elav v'Adonai vayelech ito lot Avram ben chamesh shanim v'shivim shana b'tzeito mecharan.
Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech olam, asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochinu. Baruch ata Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
And so in the presence of Torah, we take a moment now to offer prayers for healing for those who face the future not fully whole. If there's someone in your life, someone who you hold in your heart in need of healing, as we say these prayers, I invite you to picture them, whisper their name out loud. Mishaberach, Avotinu, Avraham, Yitzchak, v'Yaakov, v'Imotinu, Sarah, Rivka, Leah, v'Rachel. May the one who blessed our ancestors before us bring strength to all those who struggle against sickness and wholeness to all those who long to be healed. We think of those we love and whisper their names out loud as we take a moment of silent prayer to offer our prayers for them. And then together we sing words of healing, Mishaberach.
Mishaberach avotenu mekor habracha limotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say,
Amen. We turn to page 252 as we make ready to return Torah to the ark, lifting it high. I ask you to rise in honor of the Torah.
V'zot haTorah asher sa Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe. V'zot haTorah asher sa Moshe lifnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe. Yala la 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 la, yala la 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 la, yala la 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 la, yala la la, yala la la, yala la la la, yala la la la.
Page 256.
Eitz Chaim hi l'machazikim ba v'tocheha meushar deracheha darchei noam v'chol netivoteha Shalom, Hashivenu Adonai, Elechav Nashuva, Chadesh Ameinu, Kikedem.
We continue with Aleinu on page 283.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'Adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שהוא שם חלקנו לייחד את שמו, וגור עלינו להמליך מלכותו, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
You may be seated. Our memorial meditation can be found at the top of page 289. In nature's ebb and flow, God's eternal law abides. When tears dim our vision or grief clouds our understanding, we often lose sight of God's eternal plan. Yet we know that growth and decay, life and death all reveal a divine purpose. God, who is our support in the struggles of life, is also our hope in death. We have set God before us and shall not despair. In God's hands are the souls of all the living and the spirits of all flesh. Under God's protection we abide, and by God's love are we comforted. O life of our life, soul of our soul, cause your light to shine into our hearts and fill our spirits with abiding trust in you. Our thoughts turn now to those in our community and extended communities who have died at this time in years past. As we mark their yard sites, we remember them. Arthur Aftergut, Audrey Allen, Donald A. Benjamin, Rose Marion Berg, Martha Burgle, Sidney Berman, Judith Bernstein, Sienna Vera Bishop, Sidney Bretler, Joseph Bryant, Anna Charnaninsky, Lois Cochran, Morris K. Dorn, Jane Callison-Dreyfus, Dr. Harry Elmetz, Sam Fattel, Adolph Fraley, Dr. Albert Franco, Dr. Samuel J. Friedberg, Leonora Garfinkel, Martin I. Glass, James Glennon, Herman Glosserman, Harry Pete Glavinsky, Dr. Harry Goldberg, Bessie Golden, Marion Goldsmith, Sylvia Greenberg, Nathan Hafkin, Emery Eisenberg, Sue Karotkin, Elaine Dixie Kaufman, Harriet Kay, Daniel Kareth, Diana Kaiser, Eva Kingston, Rollins Miller Koppel, Marcy Kurtz, Anne Levine, Leah Lefton, Isabella Levison, Frank Hart Lichtenstein, Paul Mann, Joseph Matisoff, John Milton Jr., Joe Neerman, Winifred Ozer, Sarah Ratner, Maria Jose de Silva Rennebeck, Emma Rice, Herbert Rifkin, Selma Robinson, Stephen Berger Roos, Dr. Walter Rawson, Arthur Rotblatt, Robert Rubenstein, Benjamin Sachs, Robert Sapiro, Molly Schuster, Esther Safarti, Julius Seligman, Charlotte Simon, Esther Simon, David Stensler, Egon Stern, Mathilde Stern, Jack Swidler, Miriam Gibber-Tobman, Esther Weinstein, Sam Weinstein, Milt Weiss, Ethan Zimmerman, Louis Zimmerman, and Joseph Samuel Zussman. We also think of those who've died in the past month, whose families are in a mourning period of Shloshim. We remember Ruth Friedberg, Melvin O. Levine, Marilyn Golden, Doris Freed, Dr. Neil Ross Gerwitz, and Marilyn Glick Glosserman. We also think of those who've died this past week, whose families are in a mourning period of Shiva. We remember Steve Sterling, brother of Harris and Francis Sterling, Francis Frankie Wolf, cousin of Pam and Mark Ayers, and Rabbi Barton Lee, husband of Marcy Lee, father of Noam and Stephanie Lee, and Nira Lee and David Eisenbeis, brother of Carl and Barbara Lee, and cousin of Lee and Betsy Rosenberg, Barbara Wolf, Michael and Shirley Swanson, Steve and Eileen Lee, and Karen Lee. To all of these names, we add those which are in our hearts each and every day as we rise together as one community for Kaddish Yatom on page 294. Yitzgadal v'yitzkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayachon u'vyomechon u'v'chayed chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kari v'imru, amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam ulmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yithalev v'yithalal shemei dekudesha b'richu, La'ela min kol berachata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, ta'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, to which we say, amen. Our closing song this morning is Yigdal, which can be found on page 324. We join together in the first verse, the second verse, and the last verse.
Yigdal Elohim chai v'yishtabach nimtza v'ye'enei del metziuto echad v'yein yachid ke'ichudo Ne'lam v'gam ein sof le'yachduto Ein lo demut haguf v'yeino guf Lo na'aroch elav gedushato Kadmon lechol davar asher nivra Rishon v'yein reshit l'reshito Chaye olam nata b'tochenu Baruch Adei ad Shem Tehilato Chaye olam nata b'tochenu Baruch Adei ad Shem Tehilato
Shabbat Shalom.